Once upon a time, few Grammys ago, Taylor Swift decided to mess with dubstep, and the world was never the same. Hey there, how are you today? I hope you're good. I'm great because Taylor Swift is literally re-releasing her version of her best album ever. Just so you know, Red marked a major watershed moment in Taylor's career. Her fourth studio album propelled her name from big country star to big pop star, with tracks that range from banjo-driven ballads to electro-pop to rock arena songs. It also includes some of her most heartbreaking lyrics with some of her most iconic Easter eggs, and you saw her working with some of the biggest names in the pop music industry. I'm gonna start the video now. Did you like it already? Did you get subscribed? Because you're gonna forget it by the end. So that's why for today's video, we're gonna explain why Red is literally the best Taylor Swift album. Let's go. When Taylor started working on her follow-up album to the 2010s Speak Now, her label thought that she would just stick to country music because after all, she was already a big country star. So everything was working out just fine, but she wasn't really happy about it. In her words, she thought that she was becoming old news in the industry, and she feared that soon she would lose relevance among so many new, exciting up-and-coming artists. See, that's why she is the music industry, because she knows. So for her new album, she wanted to do things differently. If for her album Speak Now, she wanted to write all of the songs by herself to prove that she could do it, now she wanted to collab with some people that she could learn from. During her Speak Now tour, she performed with surprise guests like Nicki Minaj, Justin Bieber, Usher, Selena Gomez, and Hayley Williams. And now she also wanted to experiment with new sounds and expand her scope beyond country pop. So along with her longtime collaborator Nathan Chapman, who worked with her on her first 3 albums, she tapped country producer Dan Huff and pop producers Jeff Basker, Max Martin, and Shellback. And I hope I pronounced everyone's name right. Martin and Shellback are frequent collaborators, and they are behind some of the most iconic pop hits of this century by people like Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys, Ariana Grande, Katy Perry, and The Weeknd. Yeah, what you thought is right. They are the responsible ones for the biggest hits of the album Red. We Are Never Getting Back Together was the first song Taylor worked on with Martin. Story goes that she was at the studio with him and Shellback when one of her acts popped in and said he had heard they were getting back together. She then explained the situation to Dan, and Martin said that they should write about it. She said that he's one of the best writers to work with, not only because, well, he made a bunch of pop hits, but also because he was always pushing her to find better words, to write better lyrics, so basically to phrase things better and then write better songs. The song became Red's lead single, and it was the first Taylor Swift song to top the Billboard 100 chart. They also collabed on 22 and I Knew You Were Trouble. The idea for the dubstep drop came from Taylor herself. The song was still only called Trouble when Shellback suggested adding the drum beat to the song's verse, and that's how it became I Knew You Were Trouble. Red also features duets with Ed Sheeran and Gary Lightbody from Snow Patrol, a band that was frequently featured on Taylor's beloved show Grey's Anatomy. Everything Has Changed was co-written with Ed Sheeran while sitting on a trampoline in the backyard of Taylor's house in LA. Taylor became known pretty early in her career for her lyrics describing love and especially heartbreak, but she considers Red her only true breakup album. It was written after a very intense period of heartbreak and healing, where she says that she just couldn't stop writing about it to deal with all those complex emotions. And in the end, she had 30 songs that are finally out to the world with Taylor's Red version. Those emotions also inspired the album title. During a live stream, she explained that all those emotions spanning from intense love, intense frustration, jealousy, confusion, all of that, in my mind, all of those emotions I read, you know, there's nothing in between. Now, pay attention. This album is so vulnerable that its track 5 is probably the best track 5 in the history of Taylor's track 5s. Rolling Stone's Rob Sheffield actually ranked it the best Taylor Swift track ever. All Too Well. And real quick here, I didn't like Taylor Swift until recently after watching the documentary Miss Americana, and then now I'm obsessed with her, but I always liked this song. This song is beyond All Too Well was the first song Taylor wrote for Red. At her show during her Speak Now tour, she started to ad-lib some lyrics over a 4-short riff and was joined by her band. The result was that famous 10-minute draft that she reworked with Liz Rose, who had previously collabed with Taylor on her debut album and on Fearless. Taylor said that this song was so emotional that it was the hardest one to work on. She would abandon it on months to end before picking it up again, and the lyrics describe that relationship so vividly. Dancing in the refrigerator light, singing in the car, the little kid with glasses, the scarf. And of course, the most iconic lines. Can you call me up again just to break me like a promise? So casually cruel in the name of being honest. If you never cry to this song, I don't trust you at all. Red's deeply personal and emotional lyrics led to positive comparisons to Johnny Mitchell's Blue, along with the visuals like Taylor's face being half shadowed by her head on the cover photo, and also, of course, the album being named after a color. In fact, Taylor said Johnny Mitchell's work was one of her inspirations for her songwriting approach on Red. Songs like River, which is just about her regrets and doubts on herself. I think this album Blue is my favorite because it explores somebody so deeply. Another Johnny Mitchell influence that we can argue is in Red, the more mature approach that Taylor took on this album. It's a transitional album, not just sonically making her transition from country to pop, but also her transition to adolescence to adulthood. Red was Taylor's first album to feature more personal, direct sex reference, even though they still weren't exactly explicit like in Tree Shrews, where she says, I'll do anything you say if you say it with your hands. One of her liners, Secret Message, says, I wear heels now, which could be a reference to an ex who didn't like it when she wore heels, but also could symbolize that growth or even simply abandoning her signature cowboy boots for heels. But when Red came out in October 2012, many critics argued that as good as the lyrics and the production were, the album still didn't feel cohesive because of the mix of genres. But let me tell you something. That is exactly why the album is so good. It was important that Red mixed country and pop because if Taylor had went just straight to pop, it would sound too jarring. But Red showed Taylor and her audience that actually she could perform really well in pop. But she still cared a lot about her country fan base and all the radios, media, and outlets that had helped her to get there. So her label actually sent out a promotional country version of We Are Never Getting Back Together to country radios, which was later whipped out of public existence by the company. The mix of styles also connects to the main heartbreak vibe. As Taylor wrote when she announced Red, Taylor's version in 2021, the world is a different place for the heartbroken, with thousands of micro emotions a day. So musically and lyrically, Red resembles a heartbroken person. It was all over the place, a fractured mosaic of feelings that somehow all fit together in the end. It also connects to the conflicting emotions of transitioning to adulthood, like she wrote in 22, happy, free, confused, and lonely in the best way. Like the video. Red can be viewed in many ways as the most Taylor Swift album, and even though it might have seemed like a risky move at the time, it proved that Taylor really understood her audience and her strengths. It became literally the second best-selling album of 2012, just behind of Adele's 21, which makes a lot of sense because it's another great breakup album. People were going through something in 2012. It also brought Taylor Swift her second Album of the Year nomination at the Grammys, and she was so confident in her work that she and many people believed that she would take the trophy home, which famously went to Daft Punk. She later seemed to hint at the viral moment in one of her lover diaries, which included a page written on the ceremony's eve in 2014. Never have I felt so good about our chances. Never have I wanted something as badly as I want to hear than say Red as the Album of the Year. Red is literally one of the most important albums in the early 2010s. It helped to define an era in pop, and it even ranked it in 99 in the revised Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums of All Time list, though the voting took place before Folklore. But yeah, that's it. I do think that Red is literally the best Taylor Swift album. I can't wait to hear the new songs. We deserve this so badly. And in case anyone out there wants to give the Red's Taylor version to me, just so you know, know my birthday's coming. It's in February, but so what? I hope you liked the video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe and give it a thumbs up. And if you didn't, I bet you're friends with my neighbor because she doesn't let me work at all. Bye.